There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will be body swapped with Goku. Hi guys, this is the next part of What If Broly Was Reincarnated in the World of Naruto. I hope you enjoy. Day 6 of the week. Jabi just got off work and was currently heading back towards his apartment grounds for more experimenting. He walked through the entrance of the apartment grounds and noticed 2 5 clones with 20 water clones continuing to experiment with the water clone jutsu. He walked over to get an update on the progress they were making. He was giddy in anticipation. How's the progress so far? Jabi asked. Well, we're almost there. We managed to get rid of the power difference between user and the clone. So each water clone created has the full strength of the user, but not the chakra. It's still 1/10 the chakra of the user. The water clones can now move away from the user no matter the distance, and the user can receive the memories of the water clones. 5 clone number 1 replies. Jabi had trouble controlling himself and nearly jumped 10 feet in the air in glee. He did do a celebratory dance in front of the water clones. The water clones ignored him and continued to improve the water clone technique. After Jabi calmed himself down slightly, he shot out some water from his book bag that has a storage seal with 100 gallons of water inside it. He then proceeded to create 10 more water clones and make another 2 5 clones. After 2 days of repeatedly merging 5 water clones, it no longer takes that much chakra from Jabi. It takes about a quarter of his chakra to merge 2 5 clones. He could try and make a 10 clone, but he doesn't really see the point of it when his experimenting is going just fine as it is right now. Jabi has decided to practice his mystical palm jutsu and chakra scalpel jutsu while his clones went to work. Although he doesn't have a live test subject or anything, he's not going to attempt that type of practice. He heard from Esumi about how they were training in their chakra natures and decided to also practice with it. He practiced with it all night long due to Esumi only telling him about it at night. But for some reason it was harder to turn chakra into water chakra than it was to turn other chakra natures from chakra. He has read about how the second Hokage was famed for his use of using water ninjutsu without being near a water source, but he just ignored that. It turns out there is something more than to just trying to convert chakra into the characteristics and properties of water. He continued trying for hours and hours as his clones behind him kept trying to improve the water clone jutsu. The sun was starting to set high in the sky by the time Jabi finally figured out the trick. Muahahahahahahah, I'm a genius. So that was it the whole time. Jabi shouted while laughing, startling his clones and making them look towards him slightly pissed for being interrupted during their experimentation. So it was due to me thinking too complex. Just thinking of the intricate properties of water such as transparent, tasteless, odorless, and nearly colorless chemical substance was too much for my chakra to understand. Just thinking it is simple water to drink, water in rivers, lakes, oceans is much more flexible for my chakra. Jabi thought to himself after finally converting his chakra into water chakra. His options of what to do with his nature manipulation has increased immensely. He started to laugh in a manner that was somewhat similar to a genetically enhanced laboratory mouse with a name that rhymed with crane. All the different properties and characteristics water could turn into. I could have freezing water, boiling water, and mist. I could even have my water chakra form into a sticky-like substance like syrup or glue. So many options. One of his water clones threw a water bottle at his head and promptly knocked him out in his mad scientist state. I thought he would never shut up, one water clone said as he continued to go through hand seals before promptly dissolving. The rest of the clones were too busy testing to laugh at the lone water clone's joke. With Broly and Esumi, Aomatsuna-kun, are you sure this will work? It can't be this easy to create jutsus just because we have crazy badass chakra control. Esumi said a little bit unsure while she and Aomatsuna were back in the Forest of Death training together. Watch, Broly said before moving through some hand seals and mouthing the words, wind style, great breakthrough. He blew a huge blast of wind from his mouth and moved his hand forward and twisted it. This caused his jutsu that was just a blast of wind to twist and turn until it started spinning, forming the shape of a drill. The jutsu roared forward as it pierced and shredded through several thick trees before stopping before the 5th one. Esumi gaped her mouth open in shock. Then she squealed in excitement. Broly had a small smirk on the side of his mouth, due to being able to create his own techniques now. To be able to create a jutsu or modify an existing one, the user has to be able to use nature transformation and shape transformation. Nature transformation is simply being able to change the properties of the chakra, while shape transformation is changing the actual form and movement of chakra. Awesome, let me try, Esumi yelled before going through some hand signs and silently saying the words, lightning style, lightning ball jutsu, and having 10 electricity spheres form around her. She then opened her hands up as if carrying a huge ball and smashed her hands together and locked them. The electric balls mimicked the girl's hand motions and smashed together and tried to merge. Esumi added a little bit more force and crackle an electric ball the size of an elephant flaring off yellow lightning every now and then was formed. Esumi cheered and jumped around before having the huge electric ball smash into a tree. Kaboom! The electrical ball exploded and forced the top half of the humongous tree to fall when it smashed into the tree, taking along with it a majority of the bottom half of the tree. Broly smiled a Saiyan smile at the new capabilities he will be able to perform now, while Esumi cheered even louder at the destruction she caused. The two continued to modify their previous elemental jutsus throughout the forest until the sun started to set. Esumi was low on chakra and decided to head home. Broly continued to experiment and practice throughout the night in the Forest of Death. Esumi had a tired grin on her face. She was too excited but at the same time so tired. Being low on chakra feels terrible when she could continue to create new techniques. But she knew her limits and going past her limits would definitely give her chakra exhaustion, preventing her from practicing new techniques for a week if she's lucky. Esumi was passing the entrance to their apartment grounds before seeing Jabi practicing with his blue chakra blades. She walked over to him and saw that it was more liquidy than before. Jabi has just got done infusing water chakra into his chakra scalpel technique. But he doesn't know the exact differences between his water-natured chakra scalpel and his normal one. Another thing to test later on. After Jabi awoken himself from his unnatural random decision to sleep in the middle of the day, he started to experiment with his water chakra and start to infuse it into his previous jutsus. He created 5 new jutsus that were modified from his previous ones. His first new jutsu was called Water Style, Mystical Palm Jutsu. It was a water-natured version of his healing jutsu. He also couldn't test the difference with this one. His second and third one was his genjutsu techniques. He called them Water Style, Drowning Mirage Jutsu and Water Style, Water Surroundings Jutsu. These techniques caused the enemy to be trapped in a genjutsu. The first genjutsu caused water to surround the opponent's feet and suck them inside a very dark and deep water and would slowly be drowned in the genjutsu. The second genjutsu technique caused people to be unable to see water in their surroundings or see only water in their surroundings. His fourth jutsu was called Water Style, Water Flickering Jutsu. This jutsu was a modification of the body flicker jutsu and it allowed Jabi to be able to move at high speeds in water. And the last modified jutsu was the Water Style, Chakra Scalpel he just pulled off. Hey fat ass, what are you up to? Esumi yelled, slightly causing the clones and the original Jabi to wince from her voice. It also made Jabi lose his concentration and drop the new jutsu he just created, wasting water over his lap. He sighed in annoyance before choosing to answer Esumi. I was also modifying my current jutsus with my water chakra. Jabi answered. Well, guess what Aomatsuna just found out, Esumi says in a playful voice. I have no idea what Aomatsuna-sama could have found out. Please tell me, Jabi said in a barely disguised voice of sarcasm and annoyance. I'll decide to tell you, if you cook breakfast for me tomorrow. Fine, I'll cook for you tomorrow, now tell me. He found out how to make jutsus. Kinda. You're lying, show me, Jabi said before hopping up with soaking wet pants. Esumi smiled before going through some hand signs and silently saying the words, Lighting Style, Lightning Ball Jutsu, and creating 10 electrical balls sparking with electricity. She then twisted her hand and the electrical balls turned into electrical drills. Jabi looked in amazement. No way, it can't be that simple, Jabi said before turning around and grabbing a book that was titled, Chakra. He started to flip through some pages and landed on a chapter with the heading, Jutsu Formation. To create a technique, 2 advanced chakra control methods are needed. Shape transformation and nature transformation. Shape transformation is an advanced form of chakra control that involves changing the form and movement of chakra, determining the size, range, and purpose of a technique. Nature transformation is an advanced form of chakra control that entails the molding and defining of the nature of one's chakra, altering its properties and characteristics for use in techniques. Okay, good. So it turns out all this testing wasn't for nothing. What you and Aomatsuna-sama did was using shape transformation to change jutsus. If you created a jutsu that wasn't previously made before, then it would be truly mind-boggling, Jabi says as he puts the book away. We can still create more jutsu. As long as we don't run out of ways to change how it looks and acts, ya fat nerd head. Esumi shouts. Yes, you are correct, Esumi. I know I'm right, dummy. And you're welcome, Esumi says before walking to her apartment door. Jabi realized that his list of things to do just increased even more with the info Esumi just brought, and he smiled when she left. He turned to his clones and said, "More work, clones. After we get this water clone jutsu improved beyond repair, we have a lot of work ahead of us. For now, though, I'll take care of modifying my water jutsus. Continue with your experiments," Jabi said as the sun is finally set and night time has come. The last day of the week, Jabi stayed up all night to train with the information Esumi brought to him and created even more jutsus to use. His clones, on the other hand, only made small improvements to the water clone jutsu. Nothing worth noting for now, but progress is progress. He yawned before making a water clone without using a water bottle and ordered it to cook breakfast for him and Esumi. He wanted to become more adept with this medical ninjutsu but had nothing to test on. So, he decided to spend some time later in the training ground 44 to fix that with the many wild and diverse animals inside the forest. The clone dispelled and transferred its memories that the food was done. Jabi went up to Esumi's door and knocked loudly. "Shut the hell up, people are trying to get their beauty sleep," Esumi yelled in an aggravated, tired, high-pitched voice. "I guess I get to eat this breakfast all by myself," Jabi yelled back before hearing a lock open and watching the door swing wide open with a barely dressed Esumi pushing him out the way and rushing towards his apartment. Jabi had a tinge of red on his cheeks before walking over as well. He walked into his kitchen to see Esumi wearing a loose tank top and tight-fitting shorts with bunny house shoes, eating a large plate of bacon and pancakes with syrup drowning her pancakes. Jabi quickly grabbed the remaining food left before Esumi could consume them down her black hole of a stomach. Instead of increasing her height, the blasted food heads towards her other areas, Jabi thought with some red on his cheeks. "Do you think Aomatsuna slept in the forest or he made it home?" Esumi asks. "You just reminded me to make some food for him too. I better get started," Jabi says before creating another water clone that started to cook a larger sized breakfast than both of his and Esumi's. "You didn't answer my question. I think he made it home." "Why do you think that, idiot?" "Huh, why did you hypothesize that, nerd?" Esumi taunts. "I didn't. I guessed on a 50-50 chance question," Jabi says, unfazed by the taunting. "You tryna pick a fight with me this early in the morning, Jabi?" Esumi asks loudly and thuggish like. "Maybe after work we can have a spar. But for now, see ya later, Esumi," Jabi says before grabbing his storage book bag and walking out the door. Esumi just teased at the lack of response Jabi shown. He's been getting better and better at avoiding her taunts and insults. She's gonna have to find a new target soon if she can't even antagonize one of her best friends. Esumi finished up eating and knocked on Aomatsuna's door lightly. He showed up quickly wearing baggy shorts and a short-sleeved shirt. Esumi told him that Jabi cooked breakfast for him and it should be ready soon. Broly nodded and walked over to Jabi's room and waited at his kitchen table. Esumi decided to take a walk around the village on this nice sunny Saturday morning. Her 3 new swords will finally be finished in 2 days. She is excited about training with them and eventually mastering them. But she needs experience. There hasn't been anything interesting to fight all week except the dumb creatures in the forest. Their punishment from missions will be over tomorrow, so that's something to look forward to. Maybe she'll actually be able to test her skills against real opponents. Esumi thought of something as she was walking throughout the village. Why doesn't she just mess with some of the other genin teams? Her dumb sensei stopped her from messing with Team 8, but he can't stop her now. Esumi quickly started to move through each training ground searching for genin team's training. She located potential targets, but their sensei was there. If he sticks around longer than the students, she'll have to try another training ground, but for now she'll wait. An hour later of Esumi watching a genin team do practically nothing in her eyes finally paid off. Their sensei body flickered away, leaving 3 fresh innocent genin by themselves. Esumi quickly went through some hand signs and transformed into a completely different appearance. Her new appearance consisted of a tall and lean man wearing a blue mask. The blue mask was in the shape of a snake. The man was wearing basic shinobi wear and walked out in the field towards the 3 genin. The three genin just looked in her direction before quickly going back to their conversation. Esumi licked her lips as she disappeared and reappeared over the round boy in green with her sheet in her hand. She slammed down on the boy's head and he stumbled around for a few seconds before falling unconscious. This caused the two ponytail-haired genin to quickly get in front of the fallen green boy and assume defensive position. Choji, Shikamaru, and Ino. Three very famous clan heirs of Konoha. Well, you're not really famous at all, but your clans are. I'm curious on how you three achieve such great techniques. I didn't think I would really knock the Akamichi boy out. Ha, have you three improved at all after becoming ninjas? Esumi says in a disguised male voice that sounded like a smooth gambler in a casino. I doubt you are stupid enough to aim for three clan heirs at once while they are still in their home village. Shikamaru says with suspicion in his voice. Ino has taken out a kunai and held it towards Esumi. Oh ho, using that big brain of yours are you? Let's say I am stupid enough to try to steal the clan techniques from three clans in Konoha. What are you going to do about it when I've already defeated one of you? Esumi says in a taunting manner. Then I'd say you're a bigger idiot than most. And you're mine, Shikamaru says before attaching his shadow possession jutsu to Esumi. Esumi smiled while in disguise, felt the effects of the Nara clan's famed shadow possession jutsu. It was just added resistance. She lowered her gravity seal level to 5 before forcing the Nara clan heir to expend even more chakra trying to hold her in place with his shadow possession jutsu. Esumi saw the Yamanaka clan heiress connected her index, middle, and thumbs together while holding her palms out in a circular hand sign. Esumi started to seriously think about whether or not it was safe to test this attack out before being hit with it and having her consciousness replaced by Ino. Quickly, Shikamaru, he won't hold for long, Ino shouted. Shikamaru was shocked someone could resist the mind-body switch technique, the Yamanaka clan's secret technique, and he threw a kunai with an explosion seal attached to it in the sky and then quickly ran towards the currently incapacitated blue man. He jumped up before kicking towards Ino inside the blue man's body. Ino swiftly retreated back into her own body's consciousness before Shikamaru's attack landed. That was crazy. Whoa, Esumi says, letting her transformation drop for a second, revealing her voice and nearly being kicked in the face by Shikamaru. Esumi had quickly released her gravity seal level to 0 when she returned back to her body and dodged the boy and performed a turning kick on his back and smashed him into the ground, cracking it slightly and causing the Nara clan heir to groan in pain loudly. Esumi put her gravity seal level back to 6 before grabbing the bloodied and injured shadow user and lifting him up in the air. You ready to give up some clan secrets or you want to feel some more pain first? Esumi asked in her recovered disguised voice. Get lost, you blue freak. Our sensei is on his way right now. Shikamaru has already signaled him with that explosion earlier, Ino shouted with slight fear in her voice. Esumi smacked her sword sheath on the brainiac's thigh, causing a sharp cry of pain to come from the boy. Ano's previous brave front was quickly erased with the pained yell of her teammate. Don't hurt him, just put him down and I'll tell you, Ino said with her voice filled with worry. I'm the one making the demands here, Blondie. You tell me and then you get a Nara heir, Esumi said in a playful voice. Ino was about to speak before being interrupted by a swirl of leaves. A tall man with brown eyes, olive skin, short black spiky hair, and a beard appeared with an angry look on his face. He was wearing a standard ninja uniform. Ha 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 ha, well, it was fun and all, ya brats. That's my signal to bounce, Esumi said before throwing Shikamaru in the air and giving him a sharp kick in the back, launching him forward towards his sensei and teammates. Crackled, a sound of thunder roared in the training ground before the blue masked man turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared in the trees surrounding the training ground. Asuma, the sensei for the three genin, wanted to quickly chase after the assailant but decided to take his two boys to the hospital instead and listen to his female student tell him the whole story of what happened. So he wanted to know each of your clan's secret jutsus. Either we have a spy inside the village or a very dangerous shinobi who is able to sneak into the village and out of it without being detected. I'll have to talk to the Hokage about this, Asuma said. Ino was relieved but almost forgot something. His voice was also very young and high-pitched when he was caught by disguise. I think he was using a fake voice when he talked to us, Ino stated. I see. I want you to know I'm proud of you, Ino, and of Shikamaru and Choji. You didn't leave each other behind and chose to stay and fight together. I'm proud to be your sensei, Asuma says. Ino smiled when he said that. With Esumi Esumi was currently running away heading towards a new genin team to play with but couldn't find any more teams with their sensei absent. So she gave up on this very fun experience of bullying and decided to train in the Forest of Death. She chose to increase her gravity seal level to 7 and practice ninjutsu and chakra control for the rest of the day. She stuck several shurikens and kunai on her body with chakra and started to practice her current list of jutsus. With Jabie Jabi is currently in the middle of mending some broken genin's bones. He is no longer an intern and is now officially a medical nin who can treat patients on his own. Although they force him to use a transformation jutsu, because who would trust a pre-teen to heal them in a world full of pre-teens who could easily slit your throat and throw fireballs the size of houses to burn you alive on the regular. But God help us if a pre-teen is tasked with healing someone and not being trusted to do it right even though he was properly taught and tested with all his medical practices. Jabi quickly got off his rant as he noticed the Nara clan heir was completely healed physically but still sleeping away. The boy was brought in by his Jonin teacher along with the Akamichi who was unconscious as well. The Shadow clan heir was brought in with a broken femur and a slightly cracked spine. Although these injuries sound serious, they aren't much to a medical nin who knows what they're doing. Due to Jabi's exceptional chakra control, he is easily able to fix the areas of interest. But he can't just fix a patient up in 10 minutes and leave the room soon after. The hospital staff will either think he gave up or he's a medical genius. Both of those options would get in the way of his training and experimenting. He also doesn't plan on staying at the hospital for long. Jabi has learned all he could from this place and is starting to feel like this place is only sucking up time that he could be using for training or experimenting. He's probably gonna spend 1 or 2 more weeks here before resigning. The bright shining sun was high in the sky this lovely morning inside the Forest of Death. Although the inhabitants inside the forest could barely enjoy the nice warm rays from the sun, due to the tall massive trees blocking most of the rays. A few rays of sun managed to poke through some of the trees and their leaves. One particular sun ray was shining right onto a person's back. This person had a wild fawn laying down in front of him. He started to make some hand signs before having his hands take on a watery aura. He sliced his hand down at the fawn's side. The wild fawn tried to move but it was too slow. The deer eyes widened as it stared in horror at the man next to it. The male stared at the deer and then sent a pulse of chakra inside to check exactly what was wrong with the deer. After receiving the information back in the form of his chakra, the man slowly grinned before laughing manically. The deer let loose a tear for trusting the innocent-looking human child and patiently awaited its death, since it could no longer control its body. It closed its eyes before feeling a warm liquidly feeling go over the area where the human child attacked it. It rose up and felt better than before. The fawn started to dash and hop around with newfound energy and tried to quickly leave the strange human boy alone. The boy appeared in front of the fawn and grabbed it by the neck. The fawn tried to shout for help before having a crushing grip on its throat, silencing it immediately. The boy then sent a pulse of chakra inside the creature again and after finding out the information of its body, he let the baby deer go and started to walk away. Baby deer quickly dashed away, to avoid being caught by the boy again. So it seems my water-style version of chakra scalpel and mystical palm do indeed have different effects. The round boy said. Water style. Chakra scalpel seems to delay the body's natural recovering and force wounds to take longer to recover from. This could be useful if I happen to fight an enemy shinobi that has accelerated regenerative properties. If I eventually master this jutsu, I could possibly permanently wound someone and have them unable to heal forever. Jabi started to laugh madly, scaring away the birds in the trees who quickly started to fly away. My water style. Mystical palm technique increases the body's natural regenerative processes afterwards and also increases the longevity of the target. If I manage to completely master this jutsu, I could probably become immortal or have an insane bodily recovery rate. Why has no one ever tried to infuse chakra natures into these techniques before? If I was honest, I'd say everyone are a bunch of idiots. Jabi shouts. I should look for some more subjects to test on. Maybe I should keep an animal and heal it every day with my water mystical palm and see the effects of it. Jabi thinks to himself before setting out to look for an animal. He crosses many different animals but decides to look for one with a low lifespan expectancy to see the results of his jutsu faster. He soon finds the perfect animal for his experiment. A mouse. Mice have a life expectancy of 4 years. If he can have this mouse live for longer than that, it will be considered a success. He grabbed the gray mouse, causing it to shriek and put it in his book bag. He left the zipper open so it wouldn't suffocate. He was about to continue to look for more animals to practice his medical ninjutsu on before having a messenger bird land on his shoulder with a message. Come to training ground 8 immediately. Signed Sensei Ko. Jabi sighed. He was really looking forward to practicing more with his medical ninjutsu, but disobeying a superior's orders is not a punishment he is willing to put on his record quite yet. He body flickered away towards training ground 8. With Esumi, Esumi is currently engaging in combat with another genin team that was missing their sensei on this bright sunny morning in her blue masked man disguise. She was fighting against Team 9, or more commonly known as Team Guy. She is fighting against the green jumpsuit boy with the weird eyebrows. His strength and speed were way faster than hers with the gravity seal on level 7. But she didn't let this hinder her. Instead, she thought of it as a training exercise against a far superior bodied opponent. Instead of letting her eyes track her opponent, she's attempting to feel the opponent from the changes in wind with her body. She got hit quite a few times, draining her chakra that was fueling the transformation jutsu. Each hit takes a toll on her chakra due to keeping the transformation jutsu up. The bushy-browed boy sped towards her after she took hop back and threw a spinning heel kick towards her jaw. Esumi felt the sudden rush of wind blasting at her face and swiftly ducked and slashed upwards. Her sheath managed to crack the green genin on the back of the head. But what quickly followed was a swarm of kunai that were aiming right at her. Esumi started to grin. This was tough with the level 7 gravity seal on, but not impossible. Although if the Hyuga prodigy happens to come in as well, she might need to lower it. The young girl with buns in her hair continued to throw sharp items at Esumi as the green jumpsuit boy continued his assault. Esumi suffered a few cuts and bruises as a result, but finally fell into the zone. She rushed towards the girl genin while dodging and swiping away kunai and shurikens that were thrown at her with her sword's sheath. The weird eyebrows boy yelled, "Watch out 10-10, and quickly ran towards her. Unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough and watched as Esumi got into her guard and slam her sword sheath into 10-10's gut, knocking her back and causing her to crash into the dirt and roll painfully away. She didn't get up afterwards. This caused the Hyuga boy to get involved and the green boy he referred to as Lee to get angry. Esumi grinned while looking battered and wounded. Lee lifted his jumpsuit's pants legs and slowly removed the heavy-looking weights on them. Neji activated his Byakugan and went into the basic gentle fist stance. Esumi lowered her gravity seal to 3 before unsheathing her sword for the first time in this fight. She motioned for them to come on, and causing Lee to disappear in a burst of wind and appear in front of Esumi. Esumi is able to react towards his speed much more easily now that her body isn't being restricted as heavily anymore by the gravity seal. She dodged his punch, causing him to look shocked before he was sent away with a kick to the chest due to his momentary distraction. Neji dashed in and appeared in front of the masked swordsman and thrusted 2 fingers toward his forearm, most likely to rid him of his weapon and arm. Esumi braced her chakra and quickly felt a thin needle-like presence cut right through it towards one of her chakra point. Esumi's arm turned numb and she used her other arm to grab her sword. She slashed towards the Hyuga who attempted to continue his assault and he aimed to strike towards her other arm while dodging the sword. Esumi kneed Neji in the chest and knocked him away after he attempted to counterattack her sword slash. Lee followed up swiftly with a rising kick below Esumi's chin. Esumi was starting to sweat at the constant attacks and the fact that her left arm was having trouble circulating chakra through it. She was slightly upset that she might have to use ninjutsu against these two if this continues. Esumi leaned out of the way of the foot that was heading towards her jaw and smashed her sword towards the crouching boy. He caught the blade heading towards his chest with both of his palms and sweated heavily at the close call. What he didn't notice though was the malicious smile upon the blue man's face. Esumi surged lightning chakra through her blade and started to electrocute the boy. His last teammate, Neji, rushed quickly towards Lee to attack his assailant and stop the torture his teammate was going through. He threw 2 kunai towards the blue man, who in response just swayed his head left and right before continuing to shock the yelling green genin. Neji arrived and managed to stop his teammate's pain by forcing Esumi to hop back from a kick. I guess even the famed Hyuga aren't as bad as the rumors say you are. You even came to save your weak teammate. I thought you would have waited when I was done with these 2 punks before you stepped in. The blue man said. Neji simply ignored him and stood in front of Lee's smoking and slightly burnt body. He was barely conscious. The Byakugan user and the blue-masked swordsman stood apart from each other, staring into each other's eyes. Esumi took a step and Neji dropped into a stance. She took another step and a slight grin was appearing on Neji's face. She took a third step forward and heard the boy say something. "This is the end for you. You are within my range. You can't escape my technique. Gentle fist art. 8 trigrams 32 palms." Neji said while spinning towards Esumi. 8 trigrams 2 palms. He thrusted with her fingers towards Esumi. Esumi swayed her head to dodge the 2 deadly attacks, before hearing 4 palms, and dodging another 2 hits. 8 palms. She tried to hop away but the boy spun towards her and attacked her 4 times in her shoulder, chest, stomach, and arm. Esumi was slightly freaking out. Maybe she played and underestimated the Hyuga boy a bit more than she should have. 16 palms. Esumi lowered her gravity seal to 0 before feeling her chakra rush back through her system. She went through some hand signs as the boy threw 8 attacks towards her. She dodged and mouthed the words, "Lightning style, lightning snake's jutsu." Tiny yellow electrical snakes phased in existence and slithered towards Neji. Neji didn't let this stop him as he continued his clan's secret technique. 32 palms. He aimed the rest of the finger thrusts towards the snakes and effectively got rid of them all. "That's quite the dangerous technique you have there. I'm pretty sure if you actually landed them all, I would have been a goner." Esumi gloats before laughing in a taunting manner. This infuriated the Hyuga prodigy and caused him to rush towards the blue-masked man in an embarrassed rage. No one has ever insulted him and got away with it. He won't let this be the first time. Neji was about to close in on Blue Man but before he could get close enough a large yellow electrical snake erupted from the ground and swallowed him up. He yelled in pain as the snake electrocuted him painfully and caused him to convulse and shake. He heard the Blue Man laugh in ridicule as he stood over him. He gritted his teeth in anger and rage, but couldn't do anything with his body paralyzed. "Seems like you 3 weren't much at all once I used ninjutsu. Your clan's techniques are pretty interesting. I might come back later with a friend to take it for ourselves," the Blue Man says before transforming into a bolt of lightning and streaking off. As Esumi got farther and farther away she dropped her transformation partly and started to walk home. She covered her bruises and cuts using the transformation jutsu and turned back into her original appearance. As she was walking through the village, a messenger bird landed on her shoulder and with a message. "Come to Training Ground 8 immediately. Signed Sensei Ko. He better be lifting the ban on the missions or something important or I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind." Esumi swears before heading off towards Training Ground 8. With Aomatsuna Broly is currently at the orphanage where he grew up at. He chose to visit Akira because it has been a while since he has last seen her. He walked in to see Akira feeding a baby with a bottle in her lap. She noticed Aomatsuna walk in and her face brightened up. Aomatsuna looked away, refusing to make eye contact but had a slight smile on the corner of his lips. "Suna-kun, you know you can smile in front of me. I know how shy you are around other people," Akira says before putting the baby in her crib and walking over to Broly. "I am not shy woman. I just have no need to show such a thing." Broly replies back. "Sure you aren't Suna-kun, that's why you never look me in the eyes when you're happy," Akira says before hugging Broly and kissing him on the forehead. Broly's face slightly reddens but he doesn't avoid it. Avoiding it would only cause it to become worse. He stared her in the eyes to prove her wrong about him being shy, unaware that she had another way to tell if he was happy or not. "Oh so you think looking into my eyes is enough to convince me, huh? I actually kept from you the real reason I know when you are happy or not, Suna-kun, and it'll be my secret till the grave," Akira states triumphantly. This made Broly start to question his every move around Akira. Akira started to laugh as Aomatsuna started to tense up. She got behind him and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Well Suna-kun, tell me what's been going on ever since you became a ninja. I know it's been your dream since you were little. I was worried when I visited you in the hospital earlier this week, but I see you made a perfect recovery. I have been getting stronger along with my slaves. They are proving to be much more useful than I ever would have thought. Are you still calling your childhood friends slaves? You 3 basically grew up together. If anything, they're as much as family as you and I are, Suna-kun. I better not hear you calling them that again," Akira warns. "I will call them whatever I want, woman," Broly says before immediately regretting his decision. Akira grabbed his tail and he immediately tensed up. She started to laugh in a slow and wicked manner. Sasuna-kun has become big and strong enough to talk back, huh? I think I remember a certain detail about this cute little tail of yours. Akira says in a threatening manner. Fine, I won't refer to them as slaves any longer. Nope, I want to hear you call them family. Akira says before pressing her thumb on Broly's tails a bit harder. Enough, Broly says before turning into a Super Saiyan. Akira wasn't that shocked as she's seen the boy turn blonde before in his childhood and quickly squeezed the legendary Saiyan's tail as hard as she could, making him groan in pain and revert back into his normal form. He kneeled on one knee as he started to breathe heavily. So, you do think you're strong and big enough to just ignore your lovely and beautiful Akira words of wisdom and concern and do whatever you want, huh? Akira yells in a whisper so she doesn't wake up some of the sleeping babies in the orphanage. I want you to call Jabi-kun and Esumi-chan family right this instant or face another round of punishment. Akira orders. Broly stared at the woman who dared to harm him despite her lack of power. The bold, aggressive, strong-willed woman who raised him and never backed away in fear from the power, intelligence, and emotions he shown. Always willing to go against him and try to teach him what is right to do and wrong to do. After a couple of seconds of staring at her angry face that dared him to go against her word, he smiled. He smiled a smile that no one of this world or even his last one ever seen before. A smile of happiness, a smile produced for someone who he truly cares about. He slowly got up and hugged Akira. This surprised Akira greatly and she thought she was dreaming until she felt the squeeze of the Saiyan boy. She started to tear up as the boy never hugged her on his own ever. She felt the love and care the boy was sharing towards her through this hug and hugged him back harder. Thank you, mother, for all you've done for me. I will refer to Jabi and Esumi as family from now on. I care a great deal for you, Broly said in a soft voice. Akira was crying a river through her eyes and soaked the young Saiyan's chest and just hugged him even tighter. She never felt so happy in her life hearing the words from the tailed boy who rarely showed positive emotions that didn't go together with fighting. She sobbed and sniffled as she said, I love you too, my little tailed son. Akira responded back. The view of the two hugging was interrupted by a messenger bird coming in through the window and landing on Broly's shoulder. He was about to get rid of it until Akira stopped him and took out a handkerchief to wipe her face. See what it says. You are a ninja now. That means you have important duties to hold up. I won't get in the way of you doing your dream, Akira says with some sniffling. Broly took out the message and read it. Come to Training Ground 8 immediately. Signed, Sensei Ko. I have to go, Broly said. Well then go, my little ninja. Make sure to kick as much butt as possible. And be safe. Oh, and tell Esumi and Jabi to visit sometime as well. Akira says as Aomatsuna starts to walk away. Goodbye, Mom, Broly says in a quiet manner, but Akira heard him and smiled and almost teared up once again. Team 11 is currently waiting on their sensei who told them to come to Training Ground 8. Two of the genin at Training Ground 11 had an irritated look on their face, while one had a less than noticeable face of irritation. Esumi was about to stomp her foot and shout in rage before seeing a swirl of leaves appeared in front of the trio. Good news, Team 11, I have nominated you three for the Chunin exams, Ko said with a peaceful smile on his face. The reactions of his three genin weren't the ones he was expecting. He expected them to show normal genin reactions to having their sensei nominate them for the Chunin exams and cheer and shout and thank him. All his did was stare at him. About time, finally something fun to do, Esumi said. I agree, being a Chunin will give us access to higher level jutsus in the library as well. And we won't have to listen to anyone except the Hokage mostly. Jabi agreed. There better be good fighters there. The other villages must have stronger fighters than we have here, Aomatsuna said. Well, anyway, here are your applications. You are to sign those papers and turn them in at room 301 by 4 p.m. tomorrow, Ko said before body flickering away. As soon as Ko left, Esumi shouted in excitement. Awesome, my new swords are ready tomorrow as well. I can't wait to put them to good use. I can finally test some experiments that would be much more easily attainable if I use them on enemy shinobi. Jabi concurred. The three excited children soon dispersed and headed off to do their own thing in preparation for the Chunin exams tomorrow. With Esumi is walking towards the blacksmith who was creating her three swords to make sure they will be ready for tomorrow. On her way to the blacksmith she noticed an increase in shinobi. After she took a look at their headbands, she noticed that there were many different symbols on them. This only served to make her even more excited about tomorrow. She reached the blacksmith's shop and noticed no one was at the counter. She heard banging in the back of the shop. She really wanted to go investigate, but her babies would possibly at risk if she interrupted the blacksmith and he made a mistake with her swords. She would never be able to forgive herself if she ruined her own stuff. So she decided to leave and ultimately accomplish nothing. Esumi didn't have anything in her kit that would be able to get information from a distance. As she was walking out of the shop, she ran into a girl with 2 buns on her head and pink blouse. Esumi recognized this girl as the one she whooped this morning. Esumi was surprised to see her looking so healthy despite how badly she got beat earlier. Tenten ignored Esumi and walked right into blacksmith's shop and yelled, "Hey dad, I'm back." A loud crash was heard in the back room, causing both Esumi and the blacksmith to be startled. "Hey, what are you doing? My babies are being worked on back there. If anything happens to them, I'll send you back to the hospital," Esumi yelled in a panic. Tenten looked at the strange small girl who somehow knew she came from the hospital and ignored her. She laughed before heading into the back of the blacksmith shop to see what her dad was up to. This pissed Esumi off and she decided to take a look back there also. Her babies could have been harmed. Tenten tried to stop the little blue-haired girl before being shoved out of the way easily by her. Her eyes opened in shock at the strength the little girl just showed. She knew she didn't weigh that much, but she definitely knows she isn't weak enough to have just any kid push her around. She tried to catch up to the punk hair-styled little girl who was already inside their smithy, but she was too slow. "Hey you drunk bum, you didn't hurt my babies, did you?" Esumi shouted. The only response that was given to her was a bellowing laughter. "If you don't give me an answer, consider this shop the property of the Blade Demoness from now on," Esumi threatened. "Yay ya loudmouth brat, I got your order done. But before I do that," he says before taking a swig of alcohol. "You got enough money to cover this order, right?" he asked. "Did you forget that I paid already? Is all that alcohol destroying your brain cells faster?" Esumi shouted. Oh yeah, that's right. Well, alright brat, follow me. They're in the back," Tenten's dad says as he started to walk towards the back of the smithy. The two walked towards a lit-up metal table only to notice 3 blades of very different sizes laying upon it. One blade of the 3 blades on the table is actively denting in the metal desk, straining the metal table due to its enormous weight. The second blade seems to be shaped rather differently than normal swords. It resembled more of a metal pipe than that of a sword. The third blade was a standard rapier with a flowery hilt. Esumi's face beamed in elation. She dived on the table and shoved 2 of the swords in her storage sheath. She couldn't pick up the heavy blade, so she slid her storage sheath over it and sucked it inside. The blacksmith just looked at the tiny child in amazement. He wondered just how something so small could hold something so heavy. But he quickly got over it and took another sip of his booze and chalked it up to ninja stuff. Esumi ran out of the smithy and headed towards the Forest of Death to immediately start training with the blades. With Jabi is standing over an incapacitated bear whose tendons and muscle tissues were cut, rendering its arms and legs useless currently. The bear roared at Jabi despite being immobilized. Jabi noticed a strange desperation in the bear's roar that wasn't like that of a normal animal struggling. He looked around in his surroundings and noticed 2 bear cubs growling in his direction. His eyebrows perked in interest and surprise. He didn't even sense the 2 despite the small bloodlust being directed at him by them. He ignored the 2 cubs for now before continuing to experiment and practice with his chakra scalpel. The 2 bear cubs growled and roared with all their might at the bad human who's hurting their mother. Jabi eventually finished his practicing before turning towards the 2 bear cubs. He thought they were pretty cute despite the tiny killing intent they are producing towards him. He started to go through some hand signs before putting a small genjutsu on the 2 cubs. He planted a thought inside their dumb animal brains to obey him, and due to Jabi's skill and the lack of intelligence of the cubs, they immediately dropped all hostilities with him and walked towards him. I guess animals are really easily to manipulate with genjutsu because of how dumb they are. I guess you 2 and my pet mouse will be a source of future experiments. Increasing your intelligence somehow will be a fun project, Jabi thought as he walked back towards his apartment grounds with 2 bear cubs behind him. On his way outside the Forest of Death, Jabi ran into a fairly malnourished leopard that decided to attack him and his new bear cubs. Jabi was about to just punch it away before deciding to also add this animal to his list of experiments. He wove through some hand seals and placed a seed inside the leopard's head to obey him. He noticed a slight struggle in getting the idea to plant from the leopard before increasing the chakra density and forcing it to stick. He then healed the unhealthy-looking leopard with his water-style, mystical palm jutsu, making it look healthier than any other leopard and a bit more energetic. He also decided to heal the cubs just to see what kind of effect it could have in the future. The cub's fur turned lighter from the jutsu, but that was about it from what he could see. Now he had a mouse, 2 grizzly bear cubs, and a leopard to take care of. Jabi was a bit confused on how to get the leopard inside the village without causing a fuss before remembering the perfect jutsu for such a situation. He told the 3 animals to come towards him. He grabbed each of them before spreading his chakra between the 3 of the animals and doing the transformation jutsu. But instead of turning himself into a different person, he turned the 3 animals into 3 little kittens that could easily fit in his arms. The cubs tried to play with each other in their new appearances while the leopard didn't do anything. Jabi then carried the 3 kittens all the way towards his apartment, avoiding any altercations that could have occurred due to bringing 2 bear cubs and a leopard into the village. Jabi arrived in his apartment grounds and noticed his water clones working hard as usual. His clones have increased the number of water clones doing projects and effectively created around 50 Jabis in long white lab coats. He walked over to the recently made 10 clones, who had 100% of Jabi's physical capabilities and chakra, to check what kind of progress they made. Status report, Jabi said, "We've made the water clone jutsu about as perfect as the shadow clone jutsu and a little bit better, but that's about it. Nothing too insanely different except it's able to be used by people with lower chakra costs. With the new hand seal for water clone jutsu, it now only takes a quarter of chakra instead of half like the shadow clone jutsu to create a clone with 75% of our chakra. This is because of the gravity seal and how it affects our chakra. If we had normal chakra then it would give the clone 50% of our chakra, and if we created 2 it would have gave each one 1/3 of our chakra. Each clone can now duplicate exactly what the user is wearing, including physical items like Senbon and poison smoke bombs. So overall we made it about equal to the shadow clone jutsu but without the crazy chakra costs it takes to accomplish that technique." 10 Clone says. Jabi put down his new test subjects and let them roam around in their kitten forms before laughing madly at his accomplishment. "Do you know what we've just accomplished here?" he asks after his laughter. "Of course I do," 10 Clone says. "We just improved a jutsu that is comparable to the second Hokage's jutsu. My genius is groundbreaking. I have to go teach this to Esumi and Aomatsuna immediately," Jabi shouted, before heading towards their rooms. He stopped on the stairs and quickly returned back to the 10 Clone. Please continue with your complete status report. I may have gotten ahead of myself," Jabi says as he clears his throat with a red face. The 10 Clone rolled his eyes before continuing his report. "The rest of the water clones have been practicing our jutsus, and after dispelling transferring their memories to me and the other 10 clones, we have gotten more proficient in our medical ninjutsu and genjutsu. Since the clones' memories and experience also transfers to us, it is as if we are training 10 to 20 times as fast as others. Eventually we will be able to perform jutsus with only one hand sign or none at all if we continue improving our chakra control and learning how to mold chakra to achieve the effects we want it to do. If we continue this rapid pace of training we will easily become Jonin levels of power in weeks. Cage level in a year or 2 if nothing interrupts us," 10 Clone reports. "Receiving all those memories is gonna nearly kill me. I'm going to create 2 more 10 clones to heal my freaking brain when I pass out from the mental fatigue I'm gonna receive. But for now I will go share my findings with my friends," Jabi says before walking towards Esumi's door. He noticed her lights were out, so she must be out. He then walked over to Aomatsuna's door and knocked. Broly opened his door to see one of his family members in an excited appearance. "What is it, Jabi? I managed to finally improve my water clone jutsu. I came here to show you how to create clones as good as the shadow clone jutsu Naruto does." "Very well, show me the hand sign for it. Before you do this though, remember to switch to your chakra nature to fuel the jutsu. If you use normal chakra it won't work and you might injure yourself somehow," Jabi warned. Broly nodded and Jabi showed him the hand seal for the technique. Broly changed his chakra into earth and did the jutsu, creating an exact copy of himself that didn't look or feel any different. "Good work, Jabi. It seems as earth clone I can revert to solid earth or liquid earth whenever I want and perform jutsus." The earth clone of Broly then punched straight through its chest. This caused Jabi to look shocked at the decisiveness of Aomatsuna's clone, but quickly calming himself down and understanding that that is just how Aomatsuna is. The clone's missing hole in its chest quickly started to regenerate with Earth Chakra. It then quickly reverted back to Aomatsuna's original form. Ha 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 ha, good, Broly shouts. This will be a great tool for increasing my strength. Broly's green aura started to leak before he quickly reined it back in. I will be heading out to the forest tonight. Make sure you're ready for the exams tomorrow or be prepared to pay the price. Broly says. Can you teach this to Esumi as well if she's there as well? She's not home at the moment, Aomatsuna-sama, Jabi says before Broly left. Broly nodded and disappeared without a trace. I suppose it's time for me to go into a coma for tonight. I am not looking forward to receiving all those memories, but at the same time the increase in strength is undeniably something to yearn for. Jabi says before creating 20 water clones out of thin air and then easily combining them into 2 10 clones. He went outside to tell the 10 clones that were received the memories to dispel in 10 minutes. Jabi went inside and made a quick snack to eat before getting into his sleepwear and laying down in bed awaiting the massive pain-inducing headache he will be receiving soon. The 2 10 clones laid on the side his bed with the water style, mystical palm jutsu at the ready. Soon the 10 minutes were up and the 10 clones outside dispelled, transferring all the memories and experiences the water clones have done for the past 2 days. The mental pain Jabi felt for a mere second caused him to scream. Due to Aomatsuna's training with him and Esumi, he sort of unfortunately gained a very high pain resistance. It seems this worked quite against him as he screamed and shouted in pain for longer than he should have before fainting. The 10 clones on the side of him quickly got to work and started to heal and soothe Jabi's brain. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.